Good afternoon. Thank you everyone for joining this month's product webinar. So my name is Daniel Tisdale and I'm a senior sales engineer here at Bigeye. And what I wanted to go through with everyone today is a few slides that kind of touch on some of the key features, functionality of Bigeye. Hear from some of our customers, some of the new things that we're building, and then we'll give a small and kind of quick run through of some of the features that we're looking at in the platform. So really to start things off, AI is only as good as the data that it runs on. So we're really at Big Eye trying to scale your data and AI initiatives. As companies start to put agents into production, there's a lot of things kind of behind the scenes that come as a result of that. Now, data quality concerns have really become kind of the biggest barrier for AI adoption. So this is a BARC report from 2025 for AI leaders. Up from 19% in 2024. We're seeing that 44% of the leaders that responded in that report are very concerned about data quality from kind of agentic workflows. Now, one of the big things with kind of this whole movement into more autonomous and AI focused agents within the enterprise is that current tools are failing. So a lot of enterprises have started to implement AI. They've also seen a number of projects that have been abandoned, as a result. And one of the big gaps today with current tooling is, a lot of these AI agents are accessing, low quality data. There's data leakage from a sensitivity perspective. There's very poor governance, not much compliance and risk controls, or data lineage to be able to trace and say, hey, where is this agent actually getting, the information from to provide me with an answer. So the result is really kind of focusing on, low value, low risk use cases that can't scale in the enterprise. So let's talk about what's kind of needed to solve this gap here. So this visual that we're looking at here, if we start kind of at the bottom, so metadata management. So this would include, really being able to kind of understand the flow of all of your data pipelines. And then on top of that, some of the three key pillars that really are helping kind of solve this gap. First and foremost, include data quality. So this would include metrics, around things such as, freshness, volume. So making sure that those pipelines are running on the timelines that they're supposed to, and that the number of data records that are updated or inserted are kind of within line of what a company has seen historically for a pipeline. Completeness metrics, uniqueness metrics, validity, distribution. So that's one key pillar. And then, of course, data sensitivity. So making sure that there's not any sort of leakage from a PII, a PHI, PCI, perspective. No financial or security data is accidentally getting leaked out that an agent is then consuming. And then the third pillar of really being able to kind of solve this gap is all around governance. So making sure that there are data sets that these agents that are accessing are certified, that there is, a well-defined and structured architecture. There's a business glossary that allows, individuals to be able to kind of understand what all of the data elements mean. And there's some sort of stewardship process as well. So let's talk about the value of AI trust. So really, one of the big things is just being able to kind of first see all of your different agents in one place, having no compliance blind spots. So staying ahead of all of the rapidly evolving regulations that are coming out. And really, AI trust is synonymous with AI velocity. So more trust, more speed, ultimately is resulting in, more business value. So let's talk about a kind of use case, before implementing, an AI trust platform. So the agent that trusted bad data. So this is a sales operations. Let's say we have a sales operations use case. One of the choices is trusting the SQL result of what the data analyst had built. Now, there were no data quality checks in the loop. There was no check to make sure that, hey, the data that this analyst was querying and presenting, was up to date, and it was, fresh. And so really the big risk here is that, VP of sales presents 84,000 to the board, while the real number was, 127,000. So as a result, what they did is they restructured quotas based on, this poor data quality. Now let's talk about a use case with AI Trust, kind of in the loop. So sales operations agent, the choice is routing inquiries through the Bigeye AI Trust platform. And what that is able to do is really enforce quality gates before the AI is answering any questions back to the user. So some of the risks: pipeline break was caught before the VP is presenting. So it really is helping reduce that risk. And then having a full audit trail of, every agent query. And really this problem is prevented because of the AI Trust platform that Bigeye has, developed, and that this customer is leveraging. So let's talk about the AI Trust platform that we have here at Bigeye. So kind of starting at the bottom, kind of the underpinnings of the overall platform itself is the ability to, have really accurate and rich metadata. And this includes things like, data lineage, catalog, being able to profile the data. Bigeye sits across both legacy on-prem databases, on-prem ETL applications, as well as some of the more modern, cloud warehouses, Snowflake, Databricks, BigQuery, and some of the more modern BI tools as well. So that's kind of the foundation of the AI Trust platform that we have here at Bigeye. And then built on top of that, we have a data observability module. And so that allows you to build monitors, add different custom rules, set up proactive alerting so that if there are any sort of anomalies or issues, you're notified in real time before someone, an AI agent or a human is making some sort of decision. Data sensitivity. So this includes being able to scan your different data sets, classify data that is, PII, PHI, PCI. And then data governance would include things like certifying data sets, having a kind of understanding of who owns, certain subsets of the data, in a business glossary as well. And then right above that, and in between the AI Guardian, which is what we'll kind of walk through in the demo today, there's an AI context layer. And so that sits in between, leveraging all of these modules underneath to really provide what we'll see here in just a few minutes, the AI Guardian that is giving runtime enforcement, a policy engine, and trust signals for what data sets these agents are accessing as a result. So responsible enterprise AI that scales. So let's talk about this for a minute. So when we say responsible, what we mean is AI is only accessing what it should. Those policies that are set up through the policy engine are enforced in real time, and that ensures that compliance is built in to any of the AI agents that enterprise are now building and quickly and rapidly scaling out throughout their organizations. And then scalable. So the AI Guardian and the context layer is really ensuring that AI is accessing the right data for the decision that it's making, and context and quality are ultimately really, really important for driving, better outcomes as a result. So I touched on this a bit, the metadata management platform. really allows people to tap into understanding data lineage, the catalog foundation, which is really where all of the other modules that we talked about, including data observability, sensitive data scanning, run on top of. By centralizing any schema changes, lineage, and metadata, Bigeye is ensuring that every module has the same trusted enterprise-grade foundation as a result. Data observability, this is kind of the core foundation and really where Bigeye started was allowing individuals and enterprises to be able to build different automated monitors, leveraging anomaly detection, data reconciliation, and rule-based checks, that is really powered by the underpinnings of the metadata platform. And then, of course, by leveraging lineage and catalog context, Bigeye is ensuring that every single alert and insight that is provided is accurate, actionable, and tied to some sort of business impact. Now, data sensitivity, this module, of course, is allowing you all to be able to identify PII, PHI, PCI, any other sort of regulated data classes, and tag those with a sensitivity level that allows individuals or AI agents to know whether or not they can access that data and even block that type of data. Governance, of course, this kind of ties everything together to really allow analytics leaders, data stewards, analytics teams to be able to kind of streamline any sort of governance across the entirety of their ecosystem. Now, the Guardian, this is really where we're able to actually drill into and see what these agents are accessing, what the responses of these agents are. Are they potentially accessing poor quality data? Are they trying to access PII data? So this was what, again, I'll be kind of focusing on in the walkthrough here in just a minute. And what it really provides, and this kind of gives you a preview into the trust dashboard here, is a single pane of glass for all things trust related when it comes to data. So it shows how many agents are accessed, trust scores, which things are trending in a positive or negative direction from a trust perspective. Now, I wanted to flash this slide just quickly. This is not the full exhaustive list of our connectors, but it kind of gives you an idea of the different categories of data tooling and systems that we're able to connect to. So, we have numerous connectors into warehouses, Snowflake and Databricks, BigQuery, Redshift, to name a few. BI tools, so the Tableau, Power BI, Looker, MicroStrategy, Qlik, very robust library of connectors. From a BI perspective, databases, SQL Server, Oracle, Postgres, DB2, MySQL, and then on the ETL side of things, few additional tools that we're able to connect to: DBT, Informatica, Azure Data Factory, Matillion, and Qlik. And just know that you're in very good company. So, you can see here on the screen, there's quite a few large enterprise data and AI teams around the world that are choosing Bigeye to really keep their businesses running on trusted data as they're going through and deploying, different agents. So just to call out a few names here: USAA, Canva, Hertz, Zoom, Cisco, Burberry. So we really are industry agnostic. We work across all industries, to really help those teams be able to feel confident in the answers that the agents that they're building are returning back to them. And real quick, so we run at, of course, enterprise scales. You saw some of the companies. We're scanning, over 3 trillion rows of data, 3 million different customer data sets. Now, I wanted to talk about a really kind of the concept of single pane of glass for data. So Freedom Mortgage, they're one of our customers. And they have achieved kind of end-to-end visibility of their data estate with Bigeye's lineage and observability functionality. So here's a quote from Eric. He's the executive vice president of data strategy and governance. Bigeye brings all of that data into a centralized pane of glass, so to speak. It puts it all in a place where it's very easy to understand, it's very easy to monitor, and it's very easy to track. This visual right here, this kind of gives kind of another representation of, as things are changing and moving more into an agentic, type of workflow, where does Bigeye sit? So we really sit kind of under the data access governance layer, in between the data and the agent itself. Of course, there's other tooling out there for prompt and model security, agent runtime security, but we really are sitting at kind of the data access governance piece. And really to kind of conclude the slides here, so Enterprise AI Trust is really allowing you to be able to scale AI with confidence as new agents are getting deployed out into production for a lot of our enterprise companies. So with that, I wanted to give a kind of quick run through of the trust dashboard and kind of walk you through a specific use case around that. All right, so what we're looking at here, this is the trust dashboard. Now you can see it's showing how many agents are being used across the enterprise, how many different individuals or other agents are accessing these agents that are in use, what our compliance is looking like, top different data sources that are being accessed. And so this is giving me kind of that full list of agents that are registered with Bigeye. Now this top agent here, Wayland Copilot, which is really used for assisting customer operations for a bank. You can see it's accessing data from both SharePoint and Snowflake. It looks like we do have a few issues from a compliance perspective, which I can click on that product, and that'll actually drill me into this screen that is now showing me all of the conversations that are being had with this specific agent. So those could be, an actual individual. Some of those are also, being accessed by other agents. And if we drill into this top conversation, this most recent one, this is where we can see that there's, a few access or compliance issues. What I'm first prompted with at the top is actually seeing the user prompt. So this individual asked the agent, what credit card should I recommend to Emily Thompson? So Emily is really wanting to, she'd reach out to the bank, wants to get a new loan for her business. And the agent is going through, analyzing that request, looking up data across different sources. Over here on the right, you can see that these are the 4 different tables that this agent is accessing. One of those tables, this accounts table, is telling us that, hey, there's a warning. There is a PII protection policy and a data quality policy associated with this specific table. Now in the response, this is the response that's returned back from the agent. And you can see that there is a warning right here at the bottom telling the individual at the bank that, hey, data access has 1 or more quality issues. So the results that are returned could potentially be inaccurate. Now, our individual at the bank wants to personalize that pitch to Emily. So they send another prompt to the agent. agent is going through and really trying to understand how can they personalize this pitch to Emily. And the agent is trying to access some data living in SharePoint. Now, over here on the right, you can see that because of the policy engine that we have set up that is preventing PII data from being accessed by any agents, this is actually invoking a blocking mechanism. So this blocked the agent from accessing these 4 files. And you can see that at the bottom, we've got a little note here that says access was blocked by policy. Requested data has a sensitivity level of restricted, which is what we've set up in the policy, that is not allowing the agent to access that restricted and PII type of data there. Now you can also see kind of the lineage from this agent perspective. So what are the underlying tables and data sources that the Card Genie agent was accessing? So this credit scores is where we've got this table within Snowflake is where we've got some data quality issues associated with it. So really helpful, again, from kind of a governance and lineage traceability perspective to understand where there's data quality issues and what those data sources are that the agents are accessing. So from here, wanted to kind of jump into one of our other modules, the sensitive data scanning module, to really walk you through quickly how we were able to really identify that there was some sort of sensitive data that the policy picked up as the agent not being allowed to access that. So I'm going to come over to our data sensitivity module. This is where I can see all of the different scans and runs that we've set up for our really kind of classifying and understanding the actual values in certain columns. And so if I drill into this customer PII scan, what this is going to show me is the actual tables that we're scanning for this. So we're scanning this customer table. We can set up different scan types, how often we want to run that scan. This incremental scan is just running any new data since the last scan. We select a timestamp to be used as kind of the reference point for what we're going to use to define when data is new or updated for any of those incremental scans. Set a time and schedule for how often and when we want to run that scan. And then this classifier screen here, this allows me to select the specific classifiers that I want the scan to go and check for, see if there's any references to, email, person's name, phone number, social security number. Bigeye's got around 39 out of the box machine learning based classifiers. You can also leverage regex to build your own custom classifiers. These also show kind of the class of what those are grouped under. These are all under the PII class. And then this allows me to set up, how often I want to scan and run that. And then also get notified whenever there are failures in the scan itself. So let's look at one of the results of that scan. So if I click into that PII scan, we can see each incremental run. And if I look at it in aggregate, this is where I can see across those 4 columns, how many rows were scanned, what the sensitivity level was in terms of were there any rows that matched based on that classifier there. We can see that, social security number, we actually picked up a few rows. So 2 rows were identified in that comments. So that's a free-form text field. So it looks like there is some data that was social security number data that was leaking in a free form text, phone number, email. So this just allows you to see kind of in aggregate all of the scans. From here, I could export those results to a CSV, PDF. that you can then take to, really ensure and kind of get ahead of any sort of um, compliance issues or regulations that are coming, or audits that a company might be going through to ensure that there's not sensitive data leakage in their organization. And especially with new agents being deployed all the time in production, it's incredibly important that there's not sensitive data accidentally leaking out as a result. Now you can also see so if we look back at that customer table that we were just looking at, this is giving me kind of the lineage view, giving me the ability to kind of toggle between what I'm displaying. So here I'm looking at the sensitivity of this table. It's telling me this table is restricted because it's inheriting the most sensitive type of finding in the table. I can hover over any of these columns. This is telling me that's just tagged as internal. These are what those are being classified as. Rep comments is being classified or as restricted because of that social security number that was found in a few rows. So being able to see this information, across the lineage graph, in addition to the data quality metrics, and being able to toggle and flip back and forth, is incredibly impactful for being able to understand any of those agents' access across, many, many different data sources there. And I'll just conclude very quickly with showing a lineage view of some of the data quality components here. So this view, again, this is allowing me to toggle between the different views of the data, and we're looking at this specific pipeline from the perspective of the data observability module within the platform. So this is showing me where there are known data quality issues on some of the various columns within this specific pipeline that is feeding into a Tableau dashboard. And this allows me to really understand the root cause of those specific issues. So we can see this price per unit column has a number of issues. One layer upstream also has a number of issues. And if we go all the way upstream to Oracle, we can see that this column is highlighted in that light shade of red. That's signifying, that's the root cause of those specific issues. So with that, wanted to conclude our session today. Really appreciate everyone joining. Feel free to reach out to us if there are any specific questions, and we'd be more than happy to do a customized demo for anyone to be able to really get a full in-depth walkthrough of the platform. So thank you so much for joining today's session, and look forward to hearing from everyone.